Are the grown-ups gone? Okay, good.
Time for an adventure! That was the mantra for Nickelodeon's Rugrats, the smash success that lasted over a decade. Rugrats brilliantly balanced stories for children and adults, making it a shining example of a family show for its entire run. Whether you were a child deeply invested in the shenanigans of the babies, or a parent on the sidelines chuckling at the antics of the adults, Rugrats had something for everyone. Rugrats was consistently Nick's top show, and in many ways allowed for the expansion of their Nicktoons initiative, which produced many of Nickelodeon's Golden Age cartoons. When it comes to culturally impactful cartoons of that decade, Rugrats boasts some of the strongest accolades. From the sketchbook to the screen, we dive into the production, execution, and legacy on this episode of Animation Inspiration. In the late 80s, nobody considered Nickelodeon a serious competitor in the children's programming space. Throughout the years, Nick had been struggling to find its voice. Originally known as Pinwheel, the network never had a true hit. It was only airing acquired content, and in fact, it was losing money partially due to a commitment to commercial-free programming. But as it pressed onward, Nick finally agreed to some traditional advertising and slowly gained enough back to invest in original programming. This finally led up to the 3 original Nicktoons in 1991, Doug, Ren and Stimpy, and Rugrats. The vice president of animation, Vanessa Coffey, designed the 3-program block like a quote-unquote balanced meal. In an interview with Huffington Post, she explained, "Doug was really good for you. It was the broccoli. It was emotional, sincere, all the vital nutrients. Rugrats was the spaghetti and meatballs, the main course, filling and satisfying. Everybody loved it, young and old alike, because it was fun, exciting, and clever. Ren and Stimpy was the dessert. Not much substance, just an explosion of sugar. Rugrats was the main course, the core of the block, and for good reason. Rugrats was wholesome, inspiring, thrilling, creative, and of course, fun. Every episode ended on a positive note and taught people how to grow, overcome their fears, and treat one another with empathy. Originally, Rugrats wasn't more than just a vague concept in the air by then couple Gabor Kupo and Arlene Klasky. It was only, quote, a cartoon from a baby's perspective, unquote, inspired by their children.
We wanted to pitch some projects to Sesame Street, so I was working on some ideas at home for that. One of them was babies. I was fascinated that my kids, one was, 14 or 15 months, and the other one was almost 4. If babies could speak, what would they say?
The duo had worked with Paul Germain on The Simpsons shorts for The Tracy Ullman Show and brought him on board as a co-producer. Then the series finally took shape.
So it's like, I'm pitching this. She's not liking anything. I finally get to my last pitch. I said, a bunch of little incognizant babies, but when the adults leave the room, the babies talk. And she said, I love it.
Yeah.
And that's how we sold Rugrats.
I got responsibilities now. Responsibilities? That means I'm not allowed to have fun anymore for the rest of my life.
The series follows the daily adventures of the titular Rugrats, i.e., babies. Most of the stories revolve around Tommy Pickles, whom the original unaired pilot was centered on.
I heard this noise from Grandpa's thinking room, so I snuck in there, and you know what I saw?
What?
Tommy is curious, brave, and kind, always standing up for his cautious and fearful best friend, Chucky Finster, who didn't make an appearance in that pilot.
Oh no! You can do it, Chucky! You can do it! Okay, here goes nothing!
Accompanying Tommy and Chucky are the twins Phil and Lil DeVille, who are less adventurous, but always willing to tag along for a fun experience. They also love to eat worms.
You eat the head and I eat the tail. Okay.
Additionally, Tommy's older cousin Angelica serves as a constant opposing force throughout the series. While the baby's natural curiosity leads to hijinks, Angelica stokes the flames constantly, pushing them into conflict and driving many of the episodes.
I'm your cousin. No!
In season 2, Susie Carmichael moves in across the street, often guiding the babies in a more empathetic way, much to Angelica's disdain.
Who's the bestest preschooler? I forgot. Pickles, Carmichael.
The cast is voiced by now infamous E.G. Daly,
It's a miracle! My cat's gone!
Christine Cavanaugh, later Nancy Cartwright,
Did the igloo.
Kath Soucie,
If Daddy or Mommy had a favorite, they'd be much nicer to him. You're right. She'd be treated a lot better.
Cheryl Chase,
The fabulous Angelica!
and Cree Summer.
Hi, my name's Susie. What's yours?
Tommy.
Hi, Tommy. Want me to show you our new house?
But that's just the babies. While the group explores and gets into trouble, there's often a B story happening in the background featuring the parents. Tommy's parents, Dee Dee and Stu, often look after the kids, but inherently don't do a great job. Neither does Tommy's grandfather, Lou, who is often preoccupied with hobbies or napping.
That's Tommy! Dee Dee! The kids are out on the ice!
Oh my goodness! What are they doing out there?
It's not the program, that's for sure.
Neighborhood friends Betty and Howard, Phil and Lil's parents, Chaz Finster, Chucky's dad, and Drew Pickles, Angelica's dad, weave in and out of these plots. Charlotte Pickles sometimes makes an appearance, as well as Susie's parents, Randy and Lucy, and finally Dee Dee's parents, Boris and Minka. Oh, and Spike, Tommy's good old dog. The show was praised for the clever handling of baby talk, where the babies could understand each other, but the parents could not understand them. Only Angelica, the 3-year-old, and later Susie, was able to bridge the gap, though she often used it for her own purposes. Rugrats aired for 3 seasons at first, with 65 episodes completed by 1993. However, soon after, there was a multi-year-long hiatus on production. Meanwhile, Nickelodeon aired reruns of Rugrats, this time during prime time, and so it continued to grow in popularity. In 1996, production resumed, but by this time, Klasky and Koopa were now divorced and Jermaine was working on Recess. So while it returned with a different feel, there was no indication it lost any of its heart. Eventually, the show's success prompted Nickelodeon to produce its first theatrical production in 1998, the Rugrats Movie. It was the first animated film outside of Disney to gross more than $100 million at the box office. It was groundbreaking because it not only prompted rival Cartoon Network to produce features, but it also fundamentally reshaped the story of Rugrats and ushered it into a new era. In the Rugrats movie, Dee Dee gives birth to a new baby boy named Dill, voiced by Tara Strong, putting Tommy in a position he's never been in before, feeling neglected by his parents and competing for attention. This sends Tommy down his darkest journey ever, pushing him from jealous to outright vengeful. Ultimately, he comes around and learns he needs to accept Dill and the new responsibilities that come with him. At the end, Tommy has grown for the better and taught a valuable lesson to older siblings everywhere. The events of the movie prompted season 5 to permanently add Dill to the cast, but there was more to come. A second feature, Rugrats in Paris, the movie, premiered in 2000 to even higher acclaim than its predecessor. While the first movie centered on Tommy, this movie focused on everyone's favorite Finster, Chucky. Unintentionally, Chucky was introduced in this series with his dad, but no mom. Throughout the years, fans started writing letters asking her whereabouts, and the creators decided that him being a single father was the way to go. This led to a heartbreaking Mother's Day special in season 4, where we learned she had passed away. Originally, the creators wanted to have Chaz Finster divorced, but Nickelodeon deemed it would be too upsetting to kids.
No, you can't do divorce. Divorce is bad. We don't want to show
really
kids divorce.
interesting, yeah.
It'll hurt them. And I said, okay, well then she's dead. And she goes, well, you can't do death. kids don't want to see that. It's a bummer. We can't do that.
Yeah.
But we never really dealt with the mom because people wouldn't let us.
The storyline was revisited in Rugrats in Paris when the whole gang gets swept off to a trip in Paris, thanks to a contract between Stu and Euro Reptar Land. The head of the park, Coco LaBouche, tries to woo Chaz in an attempt to trick the CEO into a major promotion, forcing Chucky to wrestle with the idea of a new mommy. Through the efforts of his friends, Chucky gains overwhelming courage and foils the plan. Chaz instead falls in love with the assistant, Kira, who has her own daughter, Kimmy, voiced by Dion Kwan.
Come on! I'll show you the shortcut.
In the end, they marry, and Chucky not only gets a new mom, but a sister as well. These events prompted not only 2 new characters permanently into the show, but also an entirely new title sequence. Rugrats was a show not stuck in the same old loop season after season. It was adapting and moving forward, becoming more dynamic every time. Oh, and did we mention Spike got a girlfriend? So did Grandpa Lou. It seemed like Rugrats couldn't be beat. 3 years later, in 2003, a crossover movie, Rugrats Go Wild, premiered, though this saw the least amount of success at the box office of the 3 features. Besides the obvious crossover with the Wild Thornberrys, nothing of lasting impact really occurred. Oh, and Spike talked.
Could you give a dog a little warning? I'm trying to do my business here.
This was actually the second crossover event in Rugrats history, as earlier the characters from Ah Real Monsters made an appearance. These were easy to accomplish, as Klasky and Kupo's production company, Klasky Kupo Productions, produced all 3 shows. They even produced Rocket Power, as told by Ginger, and even those Ronald McDonald straight-to-VHS specials. But there was another big show they would produce.
4, 3, 2, 1!
To celebrate the 10th anniversary of the show, a special episode came out. It was called All Growed Up, and gave audiences a brief look into the babies' futures. It shattered expectations so much that Nickelodeon scaled back its production of a spin-off series revolving around Angelica and Susie, from a series to a 4-part special, and made All Grown Up a full series set 10 years in the future. Klasky Kupo Productions made this series as well, and it was positively received. The special wasn't intended to be a test for a new show. In fact, it felt very much like a spiritual finale to the show. So while All Grown Up certainly has its strengths, it wasn't anywhere near as successful as Rugrats. Especially since a new show about a sponge was starting to absorb all the attention. Oh, and Spike was still around. Rugrats spawned countless appearances in video games, comics, references, toys, live performances, and won numerous awards throughout its run, including several Daytime Emmys and Kids' Choice Awards. It even has its own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Also notable was its depiction of the Pickles household being both Christian, established through its Christmas specials, and Jewish, established through a Hanukkah special. This was the first time Jewish traditions were outright portrayed on children's television, both educating and celebrating through the animated toddlers.
A Mecha baby's gonna do what a Mecha baby's gonna do.
After the end of All Grown Up in 2008, the Rugrats franchise sat dormant for a decade. But news broke in 2018 that a revival was in development by the original creator trio. The big change? It will be in 3D. An entire generation grew up on Rugrats, and now that they are old enough to have toddlers themselves, they might appreciate the show in a new way. Rugrats was Nickelodeon's first huge payoff, and laid the foundation for many shows to follow. A lot of folks owe much to these quote-unquote dumb babies, and their legacy will be felt for at least another whole generation. It proved that the spirit of adventure can live in all of us, no matter how young.
A baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
Want to see more episodes of animation inspiration? Comment below what episodes you'd like to see, and don't forget to subscribe to Den of Geek so you don't miss out.